Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Tiffany Hall, and I am an alumni of TripleTen Software Engineering Program, and I'm a full stack engineer. And tonight we are having our October Code Jam live stream. So I'm so glad you were able to join us. This is going to be the uh, spookiest Code Jam we have all year. So very exciting. If you are not familiar with what a code jam is, let me just take a moment to let you know. So, a code jam at TripleTen is a super short, friendly competition where our students are put in groups from all across the US, and then they compete against a prompt that we give them. So, they work together and jam out a bunch of code. Code jam, jam out. Okay, we're all good now. All right, so they are, of course, competing for the things that all developers want, which is, of course, a clean Jira board. I'm kidding, it's not a clean Jira board. They are going to get prizes from TripleTen, and there's also a special audience award that they will win. So if you are watching this on YouTube, feel free to drop the name of the team that is your favorite tonight in the live chat. If you're watching this on replay later, go ahead and drop it in the comments. And if you're a student of ours, then you will see the poll put up in our hub. So lots of ways to vote for either your favorite team or to make sure that others are voting as well. Okay, so we have two parts to our code jams. There is the code, and then there is the presentation. So all last week, our teams were divided into teams of four, and they were challenged to create digital solutions that are going to help people celebrate and enjoy the holiday season, this being the spooky Halloween season. So they only had 6 days to make their project, very short timeline. And today we're going to get to see all of their projects. Now we have two teams with us today that are going to be presenting, and then all of our results will be posted October 24th on our socials and the hub. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Our first team of the evening is going to be Phantom Loop, and we have that team is Ryan Zamparelli, Brandon Delgado, Jamie Bowen, and Seth Taylor. Now, they have elected to pre-record, and then so I will share their presentation, and then we'll talk to Jamie afterwards and ask some fun, nerdy little questions. Let me make sure I am sharing the sound as always. All right, so without further ado, here is Phantom Loop.
Consist of myself. Hey, I'm Ryan, and our team was called the Phantom Loop Devs. Consists of myself, Seth Taylor, and Jamie Bowen. We based our project on the Spooky Events Finder idea, creating a web app that lists different Halloween events. We wanted to practice showcasing event cards in different formats and also practice saving data to local storage. The project was written in vanilla JavaScript as not all team members had reached the React portion of the program. The calendar shows the events in a calendar format, and the My Events shows the events the user has saved. With that, I'll let Jamie explain some of the functionality that she implemented throughout the site.
All right, so I worked on this main portion of the page, of the homepage, creating the event data, rendering the events on the homepage, and then sorting the events by date. So I specifically created the event data not in chronological order so that I could practice the sorting functionality of that, which worked great. I also created all of the card modals and confirmation modals. So if you click on the card, save it, you get a confirmation modal, and then you'll see later down at when Ryan shows you the events that there's also a delete modal, which I created. So hitting save will bring them to your events. One piece of functionality that was new for me was adding a filter to the page. So at the top left corner, you can filter by event name. And then on the right-hand side, you can filter by future events or by past events. And each of these different filters are also, again, sorted by date, which is awesome. So switching over to VS Code, wanted to give you a look at the code that I wrote for filtering since that was the newest portion for me. So for filtering by name, line 86 through 95, I used an event listener filter to look at the input changes. So as a user is typing in the filter, it's looking at those input changes and then matching the input value to the event titles. And then just below that, you can see how I filtered for future events. So I had to turn the date string in the event data into an actual JavaScript date. And then I compare the event time with the current time and render the cards still sorted by date. One of the things that I really wanted to leverage for the project, but I didn't get to, was incorporating the Eventbrite API so that we could pull in real event data instead of hard coding the events. But with this being a code jam and limited time and having limited experience in backend, I was concerned about timing, and so we abandoned the idea and went forward with the hard-coded events to make sure we could get everything set up. So that's something that we're hopefully excited to go back and explore later and hopefully set up. I'll pass it to Seth for the calendar.
Alrighty. I created the custom logo for the web page and the footer. Also, the main thing that I worked on for this project was the calendar, which was all new to me. The calendar is generated through JavaScript. The days generate to fill in the before the month and at the end of the month. If you click on the event name, it will pull up the event modal from the home page, and you can save it to the My Events tab. You can also swap months in the calendar to different months for if there are events in November or before October. My favorite thing and the hardest thing about this was making the events render into the days as the calendar rendered. So I had to get the event time from all the events that Jamie had made, and I convert it from a string into JavaScript time, and then I have to check if that time matches up with the current day, and if it does, put that event on that day. And that was probably the hardest and longest part about doing it. It was all new, all super fun. Though when I got stuck, I asked Jamie for help, and I used Dot, the school AI, a lot to help me walk through and understand the functions. I'm fairly new to JavaScript, so JavaScript was probably the hardest part of generating the calendar for me. All right, I'm going to pass it on to Ryan now.
Sweet, thank you, Seth. So I created the overall page design, the coloring, the fonts, and the header. And I also worked on the My Events page and created the functionality for saving events via local storage. As you saw when we first pulled up the page, there were no cards saved, and the text reflected that and is updated when there are events saved, like here. The function I used for saving cards to local storage prevents duplicates from being saved. It gets the saved events from local storage and uses an empty array as a fallback to make sure that we have an array to work with. Then it checks if the same title already exists using the array method sum. If not, it adds the new event and saves the updated list back to local storage with json.stringify, because local storage only stores strings. In short, it keeps the events saved between sessions and prevents repeats. You can also click on events, and the same event modal will pop up, but instead of a saving function, you're given the option to delete the event, all which will be updated in local storage. I think one of the biggest challenges we faced was trying to keep all our code modular and dry. It was a challenge to determine the appropriate file structure and configure Vite to support multiple HTML pages also, instead of relying on React Router. And in the end, we ran out of time for refactoring the JavaScript, so we ended up with a lot of repeated functions. But we'd love to clean this up in the future. To wrap it up, I think overall this project gave us a lot to practice, both on things we had worked on before as well as new skills for each of us. Our team worked really well together and we synced up each morning and night and often did co working sessions when one of us was stuck. I think we would all agree that we would happily work together on another project. Our team has also talked about meeting up again in the future and creating a backend for the project too, when we're all up to speed on the tech. And that is Haunt Quest. Thank you for watching.
Okay, and I'm back. All right, so really great presentation. And so we have Jamie with us. So Jamie, you guys um, did a lot with a short period of time. What do you guys, it sounded like you guys worked really well together, had a real good flow. Um, what do you kind of think was the real like, I don't know, the key to the success? Like you guys talked, I mean, I know at the end he's like, oh, we didn't get a lot of dry things. Okay, but you guys still did a lot.
Yeah. I mean, communication was the biggest part of it. So he had mentioned that we were, I think actually it was Seth that had mentioned, we were all on different levels. Seth was the earliest on in the program, just learned JavaScript. Ryan and I are much later on in the program. And so having Seth be able to leverage both Dot, which has been helpful, and us for help, I think was really, really big. And then we also would have times when we would get stuck, and sometimes just being able to verbalize it and talk through it with your partners is what got you to solve the problem. So, or they're the ones that could see the typo that you didn't see because you've
Hmm.
been staring at it for 3 hours. So I feel like that was the key to our success. I would also say potentially, even though I don't want to say this, like abandoning the larger idea that we had. I think if
Yeah.
I had attempted to do the API integration, which, I read through the documentation and it looked like it was possible. I think I would have run out of time. We would have run out of time to do at least like the calendar and the events. So it was sort of a trade-off between doing more back-end functionality or adding, more smaller functionality to the site itself.
Yeah, for sure. I think that is the challenge with any of the code jams, but in projects just as a whole is trying to break it down into the smallest piece. And you're like, this is the smallest piece. But then once you get
Mhm.
in it, you're like, maybe smaller.
Yeah,
Maybe smaller is better.
let's adjust the scope.
Yeah, exactly. So then in terms of like you guys are later on in the project and working with someone who's kind of earlier on in the sorry in the program and earlier in the program, do you feel like doing this code jam that you were well prepared with a lot of the coursework? Do you feel like you were able to kind of reflect back on the classes and be like, oh, this other person's not going to know that just yet because that's not quite where they're at?
Definitely. I think that was super helpful. I will say this is my second co-jam, and to be totally forthcoming, I did not feel like that one was the best experience because I hadn't gotten to the React portion and the team wanted to use React. So
Sure.
I was a little bit more stuck working on things like styling and design, and didn't really get to practice JavaScript in the way that I had wanted to. So I'm
Yeah.
really happy that we ended up doing the vanilla JavaScript because Seth was truly able to step up and do something that I think would have been hard for me and hard for Ryan, and he got through it. So I think it was an awesome experience. And then for me too, I was able to leverage a lot of what I learned through the coursework too. So I mean, we've had practice with modals, the filtering we hadn't used, but I could use the concepts that we learned. So
Yeah.
it definitely helped.
Yeah, I think that is something that all developers struggle with is the newest, bestest, fastest isn't always the thing that
Yeah.
needs to be done. You can do an amazing. I do really enjoy like in TripleTen, the earlier projects are very like HTML, CSS, and vanilla JavaScript. And I really love that they show you all of the things that you can do with such a simple stack because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, you don't have to do the newest best thing. There's always a new language. So much so, my very first portfolio site was all just HTML and CSS because I just wanted to see how far you could push it with animations and
Yeah.
workarounds. And so I think it's really great that you guys went that way.
Cool.
Yeah. All right, so that was the Phantom Loop dev team. And so thank you, Jamie, so much. And that team is Ryan Zamparelli, Brandon Delgado, Jamie Bowen, and Seth Taylor.
We
Okay.
actually were just the three of us.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no Brandon.
Oh, sorry, Brandon. I get the old list sometimes,
Yeah.
but life does happen and things people have to drop. It is very common.
Yep.
So, all right. Even more impressive to do so much with such a small team. For sure. All right, let me go ahead and move to our second team tonight. So, our second team is the 404 Bodies Not Found team. And that team also pre recorded, and that team is Ken Garcia Ortez, Stephen Bolin, Farida Nelson, and Ashke Khaleesi. So, let me go ahead and hit the share again. All right. Let's go ahead and take it away. 404 Bodies Not Found. Hysterical name.
Hi, my name is Akshay. Hi, my name is Akshay Kalasi, and I'm presenting on behalf of myself and my other three teammates, Ken, Steven, and Farida. Our project is a simple movie recommendation app called Recommend Dead, and it is inspired by the YouTube's tag recommendation feature as well as the Tinder's swipe left and right. We came up with this app by discussing what we usually do during Halloween, and horror movies was a frequent activity that popped up in our conversations. However, the main struggle that we had was that we spend a good bit of time browsing through Netflix trying to find what we want to watch. Well, this is where our app comes in. We have a simple UI where the user could input tags and we'd go through the movie database API and find movies that fits those tags. So let's just run through a demo. I'm looking to watch a slasher movie. So we have The Strangers Chapter 2 show up. Let's learn more about it. Here you can see all the information. And then we could also input more tags. So let's just say mask. You get the idea. We also have another feature where the user can switch between themes. And currently for our implementation, we don't have all the features implemented, but I will showcase the designs for that. So we do have the drop-down menu that shows up and routes the user to different components within our app. However, we don't have the view recommendation, but I will run you through the sign up right now. So let's just sign up with the test user account. Create a password. And then you'll see the option to view recommendations, which we don't have fully implemented. Here's a brief design with our view recommendations page. We're gonna have a card grid that displays all the movies that the users checked, as well as a filter options. This is what our options would be within our filter. And then if the user clicks on a card, we would have a modal that shows up with the same modal that shows up when we search for the movie, and then but we also include a delete button, and then a confirmation modal for the delete. That is the entirety of the project. I'd say the main takeaways on my behalf, I learned a lot about creating a backend and then also working with APIs. I mainly worked with refactoring and working with Ken to create the backend database or the backend for making the API calls. Uh, I believe Steven worked with creating the toggle for the themes as well as the drop down menu, and Farida helped us sort of make the UI design. I'd say the main challenges for our teamwork was just the time zones we live in and also the work schedule. But other than that, it was pleasant working with my other three teammates. Thanks for watching, and
Okay. So I don't know if anyone was watching, but a lot of really great things there. So it was really fun to see that the team was able to integrate a lot of back end pieces in addition to the front end pieces. Although I must say, just the fan art alone scares me on those shows. So definitely won't be watching that one, but I do look forward to evaluating it and judging and seeing how they were able to get those things done, especially because they were able to work in the time for a Figma file. So I don't know if many of you who are watching have done a code jam, but when you've got 5 or 6 days, it can take hours to make a Figma file, like planning out the what does it look like and the UI and thinking those things through. And some teams they do so much better when they have those in place, and then other teams get stuck on that and just can't move forward. So I've seen it go both ways. Looks like they were able to really do some amazing things though in the short time frame. Okay, well, that does wrap it up for us in our spooky edition tonight. That was, again, that was 404 Bodies Not Found, which terrifying thing, but I'm sure people who love horror films would love this product. All right, and that team is Ken Ortiz, Steve Bolin, Farida Nelson, and Akshay Kalasi. So, thank you guys so much for joining tonight. Um, Again, please feel free to vote in the chat that you see next to us, or if you're watching this on replay, vote in the comment section for your favorite team for the audience participation, sorry, audience award winner. And then if you're a student of ours, remember to vote in the hub so that we will have all of our results, including judges' results, posted on October 26th on the hub and on our socials. So thank you so much for taking time out this evening. And thank you to all the teams. It's really just amazing how much you guys are able to come up with in such a short time frame. So I very much appreciate that. My name is Tiffany Hall. So if you need to find me, you can find me at Tiffany Codes on Instagram or tiffanycodes.com. Other than that, I will see you guys later.